Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. For the last 6 months, you've heard me talk about this trip that we're taking in the fall to South Africa to hunt plains game. Well, here it is, July 27th. We're the end of July. We're within a couple months of this trip, and to say I'm a little bit excited might be an understatement. But anyways, I just wanted to take a brief moment in this video and go over the rifle, the optic, and the projectile that I chose. And then we're going to look at the actual loads that I put up for the 3 projectiles that I picked out, and then eventually the one that I picked to go on this trip. So anyways, again, appreciate you being here. We're going to get started. So the rifle that I'm using, I picked it up in 2008, and is just a plain Jane blued walnut Ruger Hawkeye M77 Hawkeye in 358 Winchester. I've got a Leopold, older Leopold Vari X3 1.5 to 5x20 on there. It does have the German number 4 reticle, which is pretty neat. If you guys haven't seen that before, it's a duplex, but the horizontal bar and the vertical bar in the center on the bottom, it's a very wide and heavy duplex, and the vertical one is just a thin wire, and that really helps with target acquisition and then also low light shooting conditions. So the last 5 to 10 minutes of shooting light, if you're sitting in the woods and you got branches out there and it's kind of hard to find your crosshair, man, when you pull up that German number 4, those fat heavy bars, you pick it up just like that, and makes it shooting in those conditions quite a bit easier. For those that don't know what the 358 Winchester is, essentially you take a 308 and neck it up to 358. That was one of the very first children of the 308. The other one came out at the same time, so the 243 Winchester and the 358 Winchester both came out in 1955. But anyways, that's just a side note. So it's a 308 necked up to 358. What does that do for you? Factory ammunition in a 308 Winchester, you're going to find something anywhere between 130 and 180. Your most popular are going to be the 150, 165, 168s, where the 308 leaves off with the 180. That's where the 358 starts. And the 358, you're looking at 180, 200, 220, 225, and 250. Some shoot 270. It's fantastic. But anyways, with respect to performance, that little 358 case is pretty remarkable. When you look at a 308 will spit out a 180 at about 25 to 2600 feet a second. I'm doing that out of the 308, or I'm sorry, out of the 358 with a 225 grain bullet. The 180 out of the 358 is actually faster than what you can do with an .6. So quite a bit more authority here in the 358 over the 308. Not that the 308 is a bad round. Actually, it's a fantastic, very versatile round. But I just wanted to point out that there is truly something to these larger mid bores, like 338 Federal 2. That's certainly another one that would be good to look at. The challenge with that, though, is the ammunition. And again, trying to find factory ammunition for the 358, non-existent almost. If you do find it, it's really expensive. So at the end of the day, truly the 358 Winchester is a good cartridge for those that reload. So we talked about the rifle, we talked about the optic. Oh, and I'd be remiss if I did not mention this cartridge cuff. This was made by a gentleman that's got a YouTube channel. I believe it's called Mason Leather Outdoors. He puts together this cartridge cuff. Wonderful job. Great craftsmanship. I love the product. He allows you to select what color you want for the leather, what color you want it stained, whether or not you want a brass eyelet or just leave it without the brass eyelet, whether you want a nylon cord or leather cord. He even will stamp the caliber that you're shooting on one side and then put a critter on the other side, and there's different critters that you can select. I went with the brass eyelets, leather cord. I didn't go with the caliber stamp, but I did go with the black bear that he put on there. But you know, it's a really I went with Mahogany too. By the way, that's the color of this one. It is a pretty nice addition to the rifle, so I'm really glad I did it. I'll put his link down in my description below, so please check him out if you got time. You won't be disappointed. So, but anyways, okay, so rifle, optic. Now talking about the bullet. So when I learned that we were going to go to Africa, my mind automatically goes to what am I going to hunt and what bullet am I going to shoot. So on the light side of things, I'm going to be going after springbuck. So that's, you know, a small antelope in the 80 to 90 pound range. And then on the heavier side of things, looking at a blue wildebeest and a Burchell's zebra. So you're going anywhere between 650 to 750 pounds on the heavy side. Now, bullet selection, you want to best match the bullet to the game, right? So, do you load for the lighter animal, hoping that you'll get by on the heavier stuff, or do you load for the heavier animal, knowing that you might not get the expansion and the energy transfer on the lighter animal just because of the nature, it's much smaller, and it may run further, maybe, who knows. So what do you do? So the three options that I look at, Barnes, Woodley, and Spear. Typically I'm a heavy for caliber guy. I believe in bullet mass, that's why I shoot a 358, but generally speaking, whatever caliber I shoot, I tend to go heavy bullet weight for caliber. So at first blush, I thought I'll go with the Spear 250. Then I'm like, no, this is my first trip to Africa. I want to shoot something that is iconic to that continent, one that's been used there successfully for decades, that has a great reputation. So, you know, the company out of Australia by the name of Woodley, they make a bonded bullet called the Woodley Weld Core, and I was selected the 225 grain Woodley Weld Core protected point. That's what I was going to go with, and put up a great load for it. I got some good velocity, 2550, 3250 pounds of energy, thereabouts. Man, I was all set until I went to the range and did my gel test. Put 2 blocks up at 100 yards and shot into them 3 times. Every single one zipped on through it like it was a solid, showing very little to no expansion at all for any of them. So to say the least, I was a bit frustrated, a little disappointed. And then I'm like, you know what? They make the weld core in a round nose, 225 round nose. I'm like, hey, that's an option. Ballistic coefficient's a little bit less, but the distances that we're shooting to 300 yards, not terrible. Certainly within workable parameters, I thought. So I put some of those up. The same load as the protected points, they actually ran a little faster than its pointed brother. And at 100 yards, it exhibited great bullet upset, great energy transfer, it looked like, in the block. It retained 90, I think 92% of its weight, penetrated 29 inches. Like, wow, this is fantastic. And then it dawned on me that the PH said be able to shoot to 300 yards. Okay. At 275 yards, that 225 round nose runs out of gas, about 1,800 feet a second, maybe just north of that at 275 yards. Okay, fair enough. Most of our shots are going to be closer than that, but in the event I do get a shot that far, I need to know that that bullet's going to function like it should. So I put another batch of ammo together. I lowered the velocity, so it left the muzzle at about 2,080 feet per second. At 100 yards, it was in the 18 to 1850 feet per second, so it kind of replicates what it would have been at 275. Sadly, just like its pointed brother, zipped right on through 32 inches of gel, showing 0 expansion. So, wipe the Woodley off the bench, back to the drawing board. You know, the 225 Swift A-frame would have been sweet, but again, trying to find a Swift .35 caliber Swift bullet right now is, yeah, worse than trying to find .358 Winchester ammo, factory ammo. So my other two options were 200 grain Barnes TTSX or the 250 Spear. The 200 TTSX out of the muzzle quite a bit faster, a little bit flatter. We'll talk about that later. Out to 300. So do I do that or do I go with the heavy Spear? And frankly, I fell back on my roots. Fell back to my core beliefs. I'm a heavy for caliber guy. I'm going with the 250. Found a good load put up. We're at 2,319 feet per second. And the remarkable thing about trajectory out to 300 yards between these three, it's amazing. So I loaded the 200 to 26, I think it was 2640, 2650, something like that. The 250 or 225 was to 2550, and then the heavier was 2319, so 2640 to 2319. When they are all zeroed at 200 yards, there's a 2.5 inch or just above 2.5 inch difference of drop at 300 yards. Even though the 200 starting out much faster, the higher BC of the heavier bullet allows it to not, I mean, it's amazing, frankly. Again, 2.5 inch difference between the heaviest and the lightest at 300 yards when zeroed at 200. And then the 225 obviously falls somewhere in the middle. And the other good thing is, when it comes to wind drift, the heavier bullet actually drifts less than the lighter bullet. So, but anyways, I actually got some actual numbers, a chart that I'll put up for you for each of these to show you. But I think the 250 obviously is going to work well on the heavier game. And then on the lighter game, I got to make sure place the shot forward into the shoulder to give that bullet some resistance to get it to work and open up like it should. So, but anyways, let's get to those charts. Okay, so the 200 TTSX, we have a muzzle velocity of 2654, muzzle energy 3129. 0 to a little over 2 inches high at 100 is going to put us even at 200, and minus a little over 9 inches at 300. Still carrying 1,858 pounds of energy, getting there at 2,046 feet per second. So not too bad, especially look at the 250 yards. You're still carrying a ton of energy at 250, and still traveling over 2,000 feet a second. So not too bad. Now on to the 225 Woodley PowerPoint. We have a muzzle velocity of 2,550 feet per second, 3,249 pounds of energy. 0 to just shy of 2.5 inches high at 100 puts us 0 at 200, and 300 we're just shy of 10 inches low. 1,940 pounds of energy remaining at 300, traveling 1,971 feet per second. Wind drift on the Woodley is, let me see here, just over 8.5 inches at 300 yards. So at the end, not too bad, but obviously even at 100 yards, this bullet didn't open up. So sadly, again, I was a little disappointed, not able to use it, but that's okay. We'll be using the Spear, and that one's going to work just fine. Okay, onto the Spear. Excuse me. So we have a muzzle velocity of 2,119 feet per second. The initial load, and this is going to be in the next video, my load was actually 2,363 feet a second, but was going to run out of the powder I was using, so I had to go get new powder. Retested the ammo because it was a different lot, and then the velocity that's shown here is what we came up with. But anyways, with that said, 3 inches high at 100 puts us dead nuts at 200, and we're 11.83 inches low at 300. That's a 2.7 inch difference between that and the 200 grain bullet, and a 1.9 inch difference in drop between the 250 and the 225. And I misspoke earlier. The windage for all of these, they are all within 0.3 of an inch of each other at 300 yards. So, but anyways, the 250 is carrying 1,864 pounds of energy. at 300, traveling 1,832 feet per second. I think the spear, although a bit heavy for the smaller antelope, I think it's going to work just fine on the warthog, the impala, the blue wildebeest, and the zebra. So anyways, for what it's worth. Hey guys, so we are going to, in the next film, go over, like I said earlier, I ran into a slight dilemma. I ran out of, or was going to run out of powder to put up my final batch to bring with me to Africa. So I had to go out and buy some new powder, which obviously is a different lot number because the old powder is about 11 years old. So I had to rework up the load to find out, is it still safe? Does it still shoot the same or shoot as well? And learn some interesting things, but that will be next time. But until then, God bless. I really appreciate you being here, and we'll chat with you real soon.